Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Meaningful Marketer. This is where we chat about small business, marketing, all of the things like that, but how we can make it more meaningful and effective and simple for all of our fellow small business owners because we've been there, we've done that, we've learned the hard way on so many things. Yeah. And we're still learning every single day as we work in the world of marketing. So, what we want to do is we want to take all of that knowledge and we want to share it with you. And yeah, so no goat keeping, no gatekeeping around here. I wish I had a goat. I love goats. No gatekeeping around here or goat keeping. Yeah, we're just here to give it all to you. So we're going to dive in today about giving yourself a social media makeover. We're going to give you a few points that you can take and just easily go and implement to upgrade your social media, make it more connection driven, make it more effective, answer some of your questions. But most of all, this is going to help streamline your process a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we hear people talk about is I don't know what to post. And so that is something that we also felt whenever we've planned social media, and I think everyone kind of has to find their routine, their groove. And when you're in the industry like we are, you kind of have to with like clients and stuff, right? Because we're managing numerous social media accounts. So we have to find systems and ways to make that easier to accomplish, planning out, maybe like 50 to 100 posts and stories and everything a week for people. So it's a long process and it's one that you have to think up systems for. So in our time being in marketing, when we used to work together, working in marketing at the business we worked at prior, and when we started our own business helping small businesses with marketing, we started looking at, okay, what are the common things that we've seen help the business and their social media do really well? What are the things that didn't work well? And what are the things that we feel like are really important to include in a strategy if you're wanting one that doesn't feel super salesy, that really connects with your community. Most importantly, but it is very important, that's also effective and drives sales, right? We don't want to be salesy. We don't want to just push sales all the time, but we do have to drive sales if we want to be around for long term, and we want to be able to continue building a community, right? So it is really important, but we kind of do a little bit of a reversal where connection is most important, and then sales, all of those other things in business come as a side effect of focusing on connections. Yeah. And so that is what our strategy, like our heart, is all about. So if you're someone who doesn't want to feel salesy on your social media, who wants to run their business in an ethical way and really focus in on connections and how you can build a thriving community, we're here for you. We've done it. We've seen it work for us and for other people, clients, businesses we work for, things like that. So today we're going to take you through a few things that you can do to just easily do it yourself. And then if you want more resources, make sure to check out our Meaningful Marketer membership. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that has some really great resources for you that are going to help you continually implement these things and take you even deeper into what we teach. And whether it is our system that you use or you find another system that works well for you, because everyone is unique and different systems, different mindset shifts, all of that are going to do little light bulbs in your head than others are. And that's just how it is. Everyone is uniquely different. And so whether it's this or you find someone else who you resonate with what they're doing, we call ours Meaningful Content Cornerstones. And this is how we make sure that you have a really balanced social media strategy that is serving your people, giving them, relating to them on a level before they even know you, that's sharing about your brand and your product and your sales. And that is also sharing about your story and including them in on your strategy. Your first cornerstone is share. And share is all about sharing about your brand, your product, I like to think of it as welcoming people into your brand's world is what the share one is. So this is where you make sure you're letting people know what you have, because if you don't let people know what you have and you act ashamed of it and you're not excited to share about it, guess what? Nobody's going to care. Right. Nobody is going to be excited about it. And there's so many small business owners that I know that is one of the biggest things that end up hindering them. Is they're a lot like me, to be honest, personally, where I'm like, oh, I'm sorry I asked. Like, you don't need to spend the money. Oh, you don't, this is, oh, sorry. and are just kind of like, oh, I don't want people to like think that's all I want them for is a sale, or, and I think we all have those fears. So first, I just want to acknowledge you're not alone if you're afraid of that. But I also want to challenge you to just, buckle up and just give it a go. Give it a go sharing about it. I like to tell people it's like show and tell. Don't think of it as selling. Think of it like show and tell. You've made something and you're really excited to tell everyone about it, whether they buy it or not.
Absolutely.
And I think when you start to think of it that way, it takes the pressure off of you and it opens up a lot of doors for you to share, and it doesn't feel as icky. I think that that's powerful.
It's infectious too. Your passion about what you're doing is infectious. You can channel that same sort of passion into sharing about what you're doing, and you don't have to feel this like push and pull of like, oh no, will they think that I'm being like too salesy? Like if I'm too excited about it, will they think that all I want them to do is shop? No, I'm with you, Mia. I think you got to bridge that gap a little bit.
I feel like a lot of the time businesses are still kind of stuck in either the type of marketing that is just going about it the wrong way, like being bold in the wrong way. They're trying to skip the whole connection process before they get onto someone maybe buying their stuff. Or they're completely terrified to talk about their stuff at all, and nobody even knows that they have it.
Yeah.
Nobody even knows it's a thing, because I'm telling you, a lot of the time we've been shocked before where we've talked about certain things with people on phone calls, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I missed that you have that. And automatically I'm like, well, because we probably haven't posted about it enough. If you're saying that, like, probably a sure sign we haven't been talking about it enough.
Fair.
Because most of the time, like, you're not talking about it enough, but a lot of the time too, you're talking about it the wrong way. And so that's what the share cornerstone is for, to give you a really balanced amount of how you're talking about your business, your sales, your product, all of those happenings, without overwhelming your whole feed with just product photos. That's not engaging, but it's also, I want you, when you think of that, I want you to think of show and tell. You've made something you're really excited about, and you're just telling anyone who wants to listen about it. But that does not mean, like, when you go to show and tell, okay, I want you to think of a classroom, and you go into the classroom, like Instagram's the classroom. You go into the classroom and you stand up and you present it to everyone, and then anyone who's interested in it can come and ask you more questions about it or whatever. Like, you're not going desk to desk, or you're not chasing them down in the bathrooms to be like, look at what I made, and so I feel like that's a good example. And just come into the classroom, show everyone what you have, be really excited about it, and you're going to have those people who connect with it and they're going to be excited about it with you, and you're going to have the people who don't. And that's okay.
You need both. I think both are important. You want the people who are genuinely excited like you are to approach you. Those are ultimately going to be your people, right? The people that relate the most to you and to your product. And, I believe that, it's easier to find those people when you're not just chasing everyone down and beating them over the head with it. So that's a analogy.
So then we have serve. Serve is we're meeting people where they're at. This is not about us. Serve is about how we can relate to people. How can we give them something helpful, encouraging, useful, and yes, you want to be careful. You don't want to give away all of your, all of your hard work in a social media post, and then nobody has any reason to use your product or services. Yeah, you've got to protect yourself. That's something you've worked hard for. And if you want your business to be around, yes, you have to make sure that you respect your paying people and everything like that. So be mindful. I have to be mindful because I'm the type of person, I'll just tell you everything.
Yeah.
And, so I know there's people out there like that who are like me. So be mindful of that. But this is where you are. You're going to provide them with a little something. Especially if you're service based, like, this is where you might provide them with a tip, encouragement, something like that. Or you might incorporate your product into a tip kind of form. This is where maybe you'll share a little bit of things that you deal with and that people might relate to, and how you've overcome them, or encouragement around them. And it's also where you will try out your trends and those kinds of things. So if you're fitting in a trend, it's going to go in that serve cornerstone, because again, you are meeting people where they're at. It's not about you. Serve is all about others and outreach and just reaching other people. So that's going to get you awareness. And then you are going to have your story cornerstone. Your story cornerstone is going to be your brand values, your brand story, your personal story, like behind the scenes, those kinds of things. So it's just telling the story of you and your brand and that is going to be your story cornerstone. Sometimes you're going to find that your story cornerstone and your serve cornerstone maybe overlaps a little. A lot of these sometimes you might find kind of overlap with that serve one, because you might find that one that you post in your share cornerstone about your brand also really relates to people, and that's great. The cornerstones are there for structure. That doesn't mean they can't kind of overlap into
True.
each other a little bit. So just keep that in mind. But often you will see a lot of the time that the story cornerstone will kind of overlap into the serve cornerstone a little bit. So keep that in mind. I don't want you to get all hung up in, because this is what I used to do with things. The whole like, well, but this one fits into this one, and so I can't post this one. No. This is supposed to simplify it.
Yes.
This isn't supposed to make it more complicated. So let it be simple. This is just to make sure you get a really balanced strategy and you're hitting everything. So then you have your C cornerstone. And your C cornerstone, that is where you are seeing your community, your people. This is something that you might have to build more over time, but you are seeing your community, you're seeing your people, and you are bringing them along on the journey. I want you to think testimonials, UGC, which is user generated content, for those of you who don't know. So that means that your community content that they have made, they've tagged you in, or they've sent you where they're using your product or service, or they're providing a testimony about it. That is user generated content. And it doesn't only look one way. That can be content they make, photos, videos, that can be comments. Of course, always make sure you have the permission you need to utilize those things. But so many brands do not do this. And this is huge. This is typically not going to be your highest performing content. I want to say that. And some of these you're not going to get high engagement on, but you're still going to post that cornerstone. Yes, you are going to try new things. And yes, ideally, all of them get high engagement, because you find what works really well for all of them. But there are goals for each of them. So goals don't always look like likes and comments. Your goal may be traffic to your website. So maybe you have a bit.ly link, or you have another form of tracking, and you notice that when you post your share post, you got 5 or 10 visits to your website, and normally maybe you only get one a day or something. I don't want you to think huge all the time either. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't get 200 visits to my website. This was a bummer. No, what do you normally get? And did you up that a little bit? Did that increase a little bit? So I want you to like look at those things as well. And each of these have goals to them. So share, that's going to look like traffic to your website, questions about your product, things like that. Serve, that's going to look like follows, comments, likes, high engagement, high shares, that kind of thing. And sometimes if you're using something like a ManyChat automation with those, it might also look some like traffic and conversions too, because that's where those might cross over a little bit. Your story one, that's going to look like conversation in your comments, your community, like coming together, loyalty, referrals, and maybe some traffic to the website as well. And then if you have like programs, you might see an increase of interest in ambassador programs or rewards programs, things like that, because they love your brand and, you know, they feel connected to the story. And same with the C. The C one's going to look very much like the story one, loyalty, more people sharing content and tagging you in content, interest in like ambassador programs. So that's not always going to look like high likes, comments, and everything. And yes, we want to get that right, because that means more people have seen our stuff. But I don't want you to look at something and go, oh, it only got 2 likes or 10 likes or whatever, but you missed that it got 10 people to go to your website. Now, once it's on the website, I want to just give a little note, especially for those of you who might have a team and you're working with the social media marketing team, or you have a social media marketer on your team, whatever that looks like for you. Once they have gotten people to the website, or you have gotten people to the website, if the sale falls off from there, the website needs looked at. That is where you need to look more at the website. Maybe you need to provide more information on the product. Maybe there's a button that's broken. But if they have successfully gotten the traffic to the website, social media has done its job. From there, it's the website and it's other things that you need to look at to make sure that. So if you've gotten traffic to the website, but then you're like, oh, but I didn't get any purchases. Okay, well then that's not necessarily something you need to change on your social media. That's something that you might need to look at on your website.
Great point. That's a great point. And I also wanted to say, you know, just like how the purpose of every post isn't to drive sales, okay? That's a hard thing for a lot of people to like come to terms with, right? Not every post has to drive sales, but just in the same way, not every post has to be high engaging or drive engagement. I feel like that's also a little counterintuitive in the marketing world, right? Because you're like, isn't that y'all's whole job is to tell me how to get my posts to get more likes and shares and comments? Obviously, those things are great. Those things are important. And as you learn what your audience reacts to best, you can kind of cater to that, but not every post will be high engaging. And I think it's important, Mia, that you mentioned that, yeah, especially like the C and the story cornerstones, like those posts aren't meant to be your highest performing content, but that doesn't mean they're not important. So don't be discouraged when those posts maybe don't get, the same amount of engagement you're used to, or, you spend a lot of time on it hoping that you would get more comments on it, whatever. It's still important to balance your feed if you're trying to market like Mia and I are trying to market. If you're trying to build a meaningful community and actually connect with people, people are going to land on your site and be fresh eyes for the first time, or on your feed and scroll and try to learn about you. And they're not going to learn as much about you if you're not sharing about your story, if you're not sharing highlights from, whatever, testimonials or people using or wearing your product. Like, those are things people are looking at and value, whether or not they actually like and engage with the post. So I think it's important to remember that.
Yes, totally agree. We talked about this with emails in one of our email videos, the meaningful email marketing one. If you haven't watched that, go back and give that a look. But how, it may have not have directly driven a sale right then, but it might over time drive a sale, or it might have drove connection, which, in return might look like a referral that ends up driving a sale, or a sale later on down the line. Like, you can't always measure success by sales that are driven right then and there.
True.
And I think that's where a lot of small business owners go wrong. And I think a lot of marketers, marketing gurus on Instagram and everything, kind of make this mindset more common for people, because it's like, if people aren't buying your stuff, then you're doing this, this, and this wrong. Because guess what? They're trying to sell you their course. They're trying to sell you their product, okay? And they're trying to make you feel as crappy as you possibly can. So that way you feel like you need their stuff. And like, yeah, sure, that's a great way to sell. We would probably sell more things if we were doing it that way, if I'm being completely honest. But I get so sick of this, like, if you're not doing this, because what that ends up doing, without more context to it, you are, I feel like, just putting fear in people. And as soon as they're doing a post and that post is not generating sales every single time, they're like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. So then you have people who just all the time are just swapping things up, and they can't find what works, because they are just always trying things all the time, because it hasn't drove a sale. And you're probably not even really paying attention to, in the grand scheme of things, you're so worried about what maybe the gurus are saying, that you need to use this audio under 5,000 uses. It doesn't matter. Or, do this, or this, like, and you're not even really paying attention to the data that really matters, because nobody's teaching about that. And that's, I think, a huge thing that I hope this video and anything else that we teach you on social media can help you with. It's a journey, but over time, it doesn't have to be a guessing game. I've never been someone, like, growing up, I was never anyone who really liked, like, math and data and all those things. I shied away from it. I'm not good at it. I always thought it was boring. It was restrictive. It was just ick and scary, but it is the most reassuring thing.
True.
Because I remember when I was in inventory, and if anyone's worked in inventory out there, it's a hard job, because if something goes missing, it ain't the person's fault who threw it away on accident. No. It's your fault. And you've got to figure out what happened to it. And so I remember one time what I told myself was, every problem has a solution. There is always a solution to the problem. And that is, like, stuck with me over the years. It sounds simple, but it is something that when you're in it, because sometimes when you're in it, you really do think, like, there's just no solution. There's always a solution to the problem. And that is when I really started learning to look at data, because I had to look back at, okay, what were other social media, what were other inventory reports that I did recently? What was the inventory on those? And looking at those things. And when you can gather the data and you have things recorded, you can find the answer to the problem. And it's not really that hard. A lot of the time, it's just knowing what to pay attention to. So it doesn't have to be a guessing game. And that is why we created these cornerstones. So that way, that doesn't have to be a guessing game. But then you can also learn how to look at the data and what works and everything. And that also doesn't have to be. And that's something we teach a lot about in our meaningful social media classes, how to look at what works. And so you can continue doing what works. But before we move on to the last thing we're going to chat through real quick, I just want to say, so those are your content cornerstones. They're the 4 S's. And that is our personal strategy that we have curated over the years of working in social media and what's worked. But we do have a 5th thing that goes along with that. And that is your wild card. So the wild card is where you pick a day a week, a couple days a month, whatever it looks like. And that's where you try something new. You give yourself boundaries on when you can try new things. When you're first starting off, you may be doing a lot of wild cards because you're figuring out what works, right? But over time, as you know what works, I don't want you to change that. You're not an entertainer that has to do dances every week to keep everyone around, okay? Because that's what I feel like a lot of people say. They're like, I feel like if not every week I'm not trying something new or doing the latest TikTok dance, I can't get anyone's attention.
Right.
Well, I can tell you, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But you do need to try things new because then you're continually growing and evolving. And so what I suggest you do, you utilize these 4 cornerstones, whether you're posting 4 times a week, 5 times a week, 7, whatever. However you divide those up, you want to make sure you're getting a lot of that serve one in because that's your awareness. You're bringing people to your page. Okay. That's going to be your top one. And then you're going to fit the other ones in as balanced as you can, kind of like pretty even. The C one being the least. And if you need to keep that one the very least for a while, that's okay because it's going to take you time to build that up. But you are going to incorporate into that here and there. Again, say if you're posting 7 days a week, one of those days is going to be a wild card day. Say you're posting 3 days a week, then okay, 2 days a month are going to be a wild card day, or whatever that looks like for you, whatever works in your unique schedule. But you are going to try something completely new. Try a new trend. That's another one where I'll put trends in because a lot of the time trends aren't really something that are going to be long lasting for you. Again, they're a trend. So that's another place that I might look to put just a trend. Oh, let me just try this out. If it does really good, then I might look at how to recreate that trend again, or I might use that same hook again in the future. That is, yeah, that right there. Go assign each of those. So the last thing I'm going to tell you, go assign each of those to a day of the week or however often you need to post. Start small if you need to. Try your best to do 2 to 3 times a week at least, and then work your way up if you need to. But assign each of those cornerstones to a day of your week. And so what you're going to do from there is you're going to know Mondays, for instance, I post my shared cornerstone every Monday. So I know every single Monday, I need to talk about my product, my brand, what's happening, whether that's a carousel, a reel. You get to play with what format resonates with you and works best for your brand. But you're going to that's what you're going to do. And then you're going to, okay, Tuesdays and Thursdays, those are my serve cornerstone. So I'm going to post a trend. I'm going to post some encouragement. I'm going to post a tip, something like that. Wednesdays are my story cornerstone. So I'm going to post about my brand these days. And so, and again, you might not have a lot of behind the scenes to post of your brand. Everyone is different. So maybe you are posting 3 to 4 times a week and, you're posting in the share and the serve cornerstone every single week. And then every other week you're throwing in an extra day or you're replacing one of those days with the story one. However works for you, but that is how you're going to structure it. And that's what we call your playbook. So if you can lay down, if you can sit down or lay down, however works best for you, and get a calendar and write down your cornerstones on each day and what day you're going to do your wild card. You can do it in a month format, week format, however works for you. Then stick to that posting schedule. So then when you're saving things or whatever, just think of, I could post this idea now in this cornerstone. If you need to make a list of links of inspiration or different folders in your Instagram of share, serve, story, so you can save post ideas as they come in or whatever, like however that looks for you. But and then you're going to put them in your cornerstone. And that is what we recommend you do. And that's going to be the easiest way to, take an hour to go through all of that, write down some ideas, and it's going to be the quickest way to get yourself a little social media makeover. And it's going to be great. So I hope this was helpful. If you are a member in the Meaningful Marketer membership, stick around a little longer because we have a little bit of bonus content for you. Everyone else, stay tuned because we're going to have more episodes coming out. And if you want to be part of the Meaningful Marketer membership, that is where we actually provide post templates for what we're talking about. You have access to the full Meaningful Social Media class.
Mhm.
And that's going to go over all of this data, everything. And then you are going to get post templates, a content calendar with post templates that fall into your cornerstones. You're going to get email ideas divided out into cornerstones because you can use it for your email too, monthly coaching calls, and a lot of other really great things. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to check it out on our website or our Instagram, or you can even just send us a message and we're happy to chat with you about it. You can get it 2 weeks for free to try it out, see if it's something that works really well for you. And if it is, great, and you can stick around. If not, all good. You can still come and watch us here and we can hang out. And, we hope you find something that works really good for you. So, but thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe because we release these every single Friday, and we will talk to you soon. And we're cheering you on.